Hi Alan, welcome back to another episode of Friend. My name is Generation Tech. So if there's one character that's stolen the show from Ahsoka so far in this series, it's not Sabine Wren. Yet. Her performance has been getting better with every episode, as is the intrigue surrounding her, especially after that move she pulled off in the last episode. I thought Sabine already had rough enough of a past. I mean, we did a whole video about it. It's horrifying, but I think things are going to get even worse very soon for this poor Mandalorian girl. But you guys know how that saying goes, pressures creates diamond things, or what doesn't kill you makes you shorter, unless it gives you lifelong trauma and irrational phobias. What about Hu Yang then? Did he steal the show? I would argue that he's far more interesting than he was in the Clone Wars episodes. But I guess he's just limited to being an emotional support droid. I mean, I hope they don't just kill him to try to get some emotions out of us. That's what my Instagram feed is for. It's got all those, great stories of people overcoming adversity. But honestly, when that droid jumped his 25,000-year-old metal behind, I was genuinely worried. And then I thought immediately, who punches a droid? Like, why would a droid punch a droid? What do they do, program that stupid clone from the Battle of Christophsis into this droid's personality matrix? Okay, enough with all these tangents. No, the person who really stole the show for me, and I think for a lot of you guys out there, is the big bad. Well, the big bad until Thrawn gets here, at least. Oh my god, I keep forgetting Thrawn hasn't even arrived here yet. Anyway, who stole the show? Of course, we're talking about Baylan Skoll, guys. Force user, former Jedi, badass mercenary, and an absolute unit. I mean, Star Wars is no stranger to having great villains. Yeah, Chief Palpatine, what a guy. He's probably my favorite villain of all time. His voice drips with poison, and he's always like 20 steps ahead of everyone. He's got the smile and charm of a cryptocurrency scammer. Heck, if he sold a crypto coin, I would buy it just for the experience. Anyway, Palpatine stands out in an otherwise colorful cast of characters and villains. I mean, there's Darth Maul, who's later known as Maul. He also stands out thanks to his cool appearance, awesome martial arts abilities, and later on there was that amazing voice acting job by Sam Witwer. I still scream Kenobi in elevators all the time just to keep people on their toes. Do a lot of weird stuff in elevators. But yeah, before we even get to the actual character and why it's so easy to love Baylan Skoll, we gotta talk about the actor, Ray Stevenson. Why did you have to die on us, you son of a bitch? You're so good. The man could really act. Actually, a lot of the voice actors who helped bring Rebels and the Clone Wars alive could really act. And Ray Stevenson is actually the voice behind another classic villain from Star Wars, Gar Saxon, the Mandalorian who gave into the Empire and served as a puppet ruler for them on the planet. Ray Stevenson's voice is beautiful. It's calm, it's low, it's deep. It's the voice that's in my head when I'm trying to give myself some courage right before I'm doing something dangerous, like telling my wife that I dropped her hairbrush in the toilet.
Is that a note of fear in your voice?
Experience.
Or when I'm trying to explain to my wife that she put the right town name in the GPS, but she got the country wrong.
If your calculations are off by even a little, we will be lost to the depths of the void.
Or when I tell her that I don't want to go to her friend's house for the soap-making workshop.
Witchcraft.
But yeah, I wish I could talk more like Ray Stevenson. Heck, I wish I had that same kind of aura as Ray Stevenson. And it's not just about his calm and steady voice that makes everyone feel at ease around him, it's also how he uses his face. Ray is a subtle actor. There are hints of humanity in those eyes, and around the creases of his mouth when he gets upset or he's showing remorse for having to kill a worthy opponent like Ahsoka.
To kill her would be a shame.
I mean, I'll be honest, when I first saw him in the trailers, my perception was that, oh no, here comes another generic bad guy without much depth, without much purpose other than to serve as an enemy for a heroine to defeat. But in many ways, Baylan Skoll is the opposite of that. It's also the opposite of Gar Saxon, the character that Ray Stevenson used to voice. Whereas Saxon was loud, brash, bold, and highly incompetent, Baylan Skoll is soft-spoken. He commands a presence whenever he enters the room. Not only because he's like the size of a right tackle, let me translate that for you international football fans out there, the size of a goalie, like a thick goalie. He's a thick boy. And he's like this because he knows that he's capable. He survived Order 66, unlike 99.9999999% of the other Jedi. Why they didn't see it coming or too weak to survive. Baylan Skoll, he's been through the worst already. Things can't get much worse than what he's already seen. And I think Star Wars fans gravitate towards these kind of characters for this reason. Yes, he murdered an entire ship full of blue boys, but the way the show portrays them as incompetent and arrogant fools almost makes you want to root against them. I really need to do a video about this because, like, I know the New Republic are supposed to be the good guys, but the way they're being portrayed by Star Wars, it's like, where can this go at this point? I mean, it's decades away from the First Order Resistance War, and they're already this incompetent already? And trust me, I know their history. I know about the napkin bombing, the partisan bickering that happens after Mon Mothma steps down, the creation of the Resistance by Leia out of the few sane people left in the New Republic. And then, of course, there's that tragic, massive mining accident that engulfs Hosnian Prime. I know all about this. But right now, this whole thing isn't working for me. It's a bit over the top, I think. But at the same time, I do feel bad for the Blue Boys. I can't help but root for them. But then again, it's not as bad as watching the heroic Rogue One team get gunned down by those Death Troopers one by one. Those guys I wanted dead. Like, again. Well, they aren't technically dead, especially after they blew up my boy, Chirrut. And so I guess there's this general apathy for the New Republic, which makes us kind of forget that he did murder all those people in order to get his job done. And at the same time, that scene does show us that he's very competent, something that we don't forget. Good villains are good opponents, and Baylan Skoll from the very beginning, with his calm temperament and clear display of power, is just that. And later on, when he finally encounters Ahsoka and Sabine, we did an entire breakdown of that whole duel. But basically, Baylan Skoll doesn't defeat Ahsoka because he's more skilled. I would actually say in a fair fight where Ahsoka doesn't burn her hand on an ancient artifact, I would actually give a few points to Baylan, if I were a gambling man. Especially if Ahsoka was using her natural Jar Kai with Form 4 and Form 5 instead of just single wielding. Baylan Skoll is powerful, but I just don't think he's Ahsoka's caliber. But then again, it's not all about fighting skills. There's another level of strategy that Baylan Skoll is terrific at. Oh, I do have to mention that one commenter said in one of our last videos that maybe Ahsoka is not dual wielding because it's hard to make dual wielding look cool, or maybe it's hard to teach Rosario Dawson how to make it look cool, or they couldn't find like stunt women to do it or something. But then again, in that duel against Morgan Elsbeth, Ahsoka was dual wielding in The Mandalorian, although it was against a spear. But still, it wasn't that bad, that scene. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure why Ahsoka is using only one blade here. Anyway, Baylan Skoll doesn't win that battle by just using pure strength. Well, he does eventually, but he sets up the entire battle first in his favor by jarring Ahsoka straight out of the gate, by pushing her buttons, by talking about the one thing, the one wound that she hasn't healed just yet.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became. Surely that must leave a mark. Is that why you walked away? Abandoned him?
Oh, by the way, before that battle, when Baylan Skoll knows he's about to fight Ahsoka, Morgan Elsbeth picks up on this little detail.
Best get underway soon.
Is that a note of fear in your voice?
Morgan Elsbeth is really perceptive. It might be witchcraft, but yeah, if you take a close look at Baylan Skoll right before the fight, there's some fear in his eyes.
Best get underway soon.
This subtle little scene does two things. One, it shows us that Baylan Skoll is not an idiot. He actually respects Ahsoka, unlike the countless arrogant baddies that came before him trying to take out our legendary snips and were turned into a fog of something I imagine smells really bad. I mean, finally, we have a bad guy that actually prepares properly for a fight, and guess what? As a result, he wins the duel. He makes Ahsoka off balance, full of rage, and not focused at all here, which is deadly for a Jedi. Imagine if, like, the Jedi gave younglings with ADHD Ritalin so they could be more powerful with the Force. I gotta stop saying everything that comes up in my mind. The other thing it shows is Baylan Skoll most likely was a diplomat when he was a Jedi, which was a normal occupation for someone of his stature. This means negotiating deals, preventing wars, sleeping with drop-dead gorgeous queens, and talking to them about your weird phobias.
I don't like sand.
This guy really knows how to read people and then deftly break them apart. I mean, he's not even using the Force here, I don't think. It's impressive. Which makes us like him, in the same way we love the fun and diabolical Palpatine when he's running circles around the Jedi. It's not that we love evil, I mean, maybe some of them like evil, but it's just, we like competence. We like people who are good at what they do. You know what, I lied. There's actually 3 things this admission of fear does for Baylan Skoll's character. It's something that if you do too much, people won't like you, they'll think you're weak, but if you do it just a few times, and you do it the right way, it'll make people like you. Heck, they might even feel bad for you. And yes, I'm talking about Baylan's fear, his weakness that he shows everyone here. He's not some meth-addled Sith warrior who has a gaping abdomen wound and is keeping himself alive through pure hatred. I mean, do we really want to see that? I mean, I guess some people want to see that. As a matter of fact, Baylan isn't even a Sith, and let's be honest, Ahsoka isn't a Jedi either. And I think that's really a good change of pace for Star Wars. I'm sure there are some people who disagree with me, but let me ask you an honest question. Do you dress up like a Jedi in your spare time? Huh? I mean, I do too, but I looted the Jedi Temple after Order 66. What's your excuse? But like I always say, morally gray is the shade forward. I think it's an extremely healthy way to see the world. You know, in this internet age, psychopaths, malicious populists, just grifters are able to get their hands on more people than ever. It used to be in the old days, they could maybe scam just a few people, but nowadays they actually have, you know, the ability to grab a lot of people. And what do? They paint the others as some kind of evil faction, you know, oh, the libs and the woke are evil, the conservatives and the alt-right, they're extremely evil, blah, 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 blah. Now these so-called leaders, these people with bad intent, they do this because once their followers see the others as the enemy, as evil, and their leader as good, there's really nothing their leader can do now that will make people see them as bad. You know, a lot of influencers feed off of this anger, feed off of this fear, and all they really care about is getting eyes onto their product, onto their message, or to sell whatever crappy thing they're trying to sell. And what's the cost? Well, it's just turning Americans against each other, turning Star Wars fans against each other, turning humans and, you know, our non-dolphin allies against each other. It's fucking terrible. You know, the truth is we're all humans. We're all, you know, we have our own flaws, but as long as we make an effort to go halfway with everyone we meet, there's no reason why we can't get along. I mean, we have so much technology, we have so much food. Why aren't we throwing parties constantly in the streets? You know, black and white portrayals, they fuck up everything. All I see nowadays is people taking the worst possible person in a specific group, highlighting them, and making everyone think that that terrible straw man is representative of that entire group. It's dangerous for society, it's dangerous for the relationships that we build in our society, and it's not good for anyone. The black and white narrative is not true. I mean, most people are freaking heroes in their own heads. I'm sure Baylan Skoll thinks that he's a hero. If only we could just be more empathetic towards one another, the world would be a much better place. I'm not saying we shouldn't fight crazies. I hate extreme political ideologies. I hate extreme most things. But it's the ideas I hate. I don't actually hate the people. You know, in my short life, I've met all sorts of weird political groups, cults, religions, other type of weird organizations. And, you know, even in the worst ideologies, you'll find really nice people. And that's always been the truth. As a matter of fact, a lot of the people that I meet aren't even in the right ideology that suits their personality. And so this shift away from Sith bad, Jedi good, everything black and white is a welcome change. And so when I see Baylan Skoll show regret for having to fight a Jedi,
There's so few Jedi left.
when I see the sadness and frustration in his eyes right before he kills Ahsoka,
It didn't need to come to this.
after Ahsoka slammed his teenage Force daughter into a wall, I can't help but feel empathy for him as well. He's just doing a job. He wants to keep the stupid map in place so the witch can get her ways directions correct so they don't get lost in another galaxy. He doesn't want to fight. If anything, he's even more relatable and reasonable than Ahsoka, who at this point has become kind of like a Jedi. She's not like the little snips we knew or the lively fulcrum we saw in Rebels. You know, the leader who made everyone feel like everything was going to be okay. This version of Ahsoka is tired. She's erratic. She gets angry. Yes, she's still our Ahsoka, but she's imbalanced, and I think Baylan Skoll really brings this out of her. A good villain should challenge the heroine, should help her grow, unless she actually did die from that fall. What's even more interesting is Baylan's clear-eyed view of the world and his clear morals and goals. It's becoming even easier to understand than Ahsoka, whose only reason for stopping Morgan Elsbeth and Baylan is that she hates Thrawn and fears his return. She fears him so much that she's willing to abandon Ezra Bridger and betray Sabine Wren, a rift that Baylan Skoll will no doubt exploit. And because Baylan is clear, his goals, his morality, it's all clear, he becomes a much more solid character in that way. An evil character, though. Let's not forget about that poor Mon Calamari fisherman he murdered before, who clearly was no danger to him, or his fingers. And lastly, Baylan Skoll is basically that dad we all respect and know, who has a terrible teenage daughter that no one else can stand. Yes, I keep calling Shin Hati a teenager, even though she's probably 30. But she's a teenager to me. I mean, her and Sabine, they're both teenagers to me. And, you know, she's going through a tough time in her life. But I really wish she would stop hissing at me like that. I mean, remember after she stabs Sabine Wren and then she just does this hunched shoulder, skulk away kind of thing? Tell me you haven't seen that in a mall or a Starbucks near you lately, huh? I'm just kidding. I like Shin Hati. She's probably been through a lot. She probably has a lot of baggage just like Sabine Wren. It's just that, you know, teenagers, they scare the living shit out of me. Oh, wow. I guess I'm on this side of the perspective now.